Today's video is powered by Hauppauge. Skip it up and that up. This is going to be an interesting video to make. I wanted to make this video anyway. Something that happened last night when I went to Best Buy inspired me to make this video. And there was just no interesting news stories today. You know, like, well, now it's going to be this super rumor mill, like a naked picture of Steve Jobs wearing nipple tassels is going to come with the Xbox 720. Hot news, hot news. And it's like, yeah, I don't care. Now it's going to be the retard rumors and, you know, just, I want to break from the news today. And I thought this would be an interesting topic to talk about. So, I received a copy of Injustice: Gods Among Us. This is actually the Wii U version you're looking at. It runs, you're going to see it at 30 frames per second, but it runs butter smooth, 60 frames per second. I'm using the Wii Pro controller with it. I'm kind of a noob at it. I literally just ripped the cellophane off right before I made this video and played it for like an hour and a half, but it runs great, looks great, runs at 60 frames per second. Great port. Some people said it was gimped. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe there's something with the online. I got to try that. I am reviewing this game. I got a review copy, like I said. I think I said. But I was at Best Buy last night. Had to return something. And there was a friend of mine there working behind the counter, and I was like, he's like, yeah, what have you been playing? Because he's a gamer too. I'm like, you know, I got a review copy of Injustice: Gods Among Us. I got to start playing that. And he's like, which system you get it for? I'm like, the Wii U. I got the review copy. He's like, the Wii U? What are you, 6? You know, he was a friend of mine. He was messing around, but it made me think, like, son of a bitch. That is the biggest problem with Nintendo. It just like a bell went off my head and like inspired me to make this video. It was interesting too. I was watching probably like a couple weeks back. You know, like when you go to YouTube, it shows recommendations in your feed first, even though it should show your subscriptions first, but that's a different story. And there was a video from the Computer Chronicles where they had the 1990 console war. And just to see, that was when Nintendo was like the king. I mean, they in the end, they won the 16-bit generation. They had the biggest install base of the Super Nintendo, but you know, it was so interesting to see how their demographic was different. It was all about children, all about kids. And that was what sold. They were that super, I mean, they still are to a big degree, but back then it was even 10 times harder. That super family-friendly company. They censored games. You guys remember the whole big debacle with the original Mortal Kombat. And it worked for them back then. That's what made Nintendo sell. They made them sell units. They made them sell hardware. Made them sell games, software. Then it was with, I remember I went through 2 gaming hiatuses. And there's a point to this, that my story about me is what I'm talking about. From like 92 to 96 and 2001 to, God, almost 2007, I went through gaming. I mean, I had consoles, but they collected dust. And I remember I was a big fan, still am a big fan of the Super Nintendo, but I went through that hiatus. And then I remember going into Lechmere. I don't know if you guys had a Lechmere near you, but this is way back. I'm an old fart. And I saw Super Mario 64. And I played it, and I'm like, oh my God. It was like the first time since like 89 that I was super excited for a video game. And that got me back into gaming. But then I got the system. I had full faith in it. You know, it was like the Super Nintendo kicked ass, had all the good third-party games. Yeah, it's a cartridge. I know that Saturn and PlayStation are going CDs, but it's Nintendo, man. They're not going to fail us. And I mean, obviously the Super Nintendo had great games. GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64, Perfect Dark. You know, there's even more too. There's just the ones that came off the top of my head like instantly. But that was when not only that the fact they had a cartridge bit them in the ass, that image of being kid-friendly bit them in the ass. They were still censoring games back then. I remember Duke Nukem was censored for the Nintendo 64. And that's one example. I'm sure there's others. And a lot of, you know, they had like the Pokemon, you know, game console. And Nintendo didn't win that generation. I mean, obviously install base is only part of it. They still profited from the N64, as far as I can remember. If I'm wrong about that, you could comment in the comment section below. This is all coming off the top of the head. But they weren't the top dog anymore. Sony handed them their ass. You know, because here is one thing that happened. The generation that made Nintendo successful back in the 80s were children. Those children are now adults. and they were growing and becoming more mature. They wanted more mature experiences, and due to the advancing technology, they could get them, and Nintendo was still stuck in that kid-friendly mindset. Now, the GameCube came along, and the GameCube was... I don't even think Nintendo knew what it was. I mean, that's probably... The GameCube isn't a horrible system, but it's my least favorite Nintendo system of all time. They went to optical medium, but they had the 1 gigabyte super small discs, so they didn't make it a multimedia system. Developers didn't like it because when they made games for the system, they had to, compress them and reduce them in size. Yeah, whoop-de-doo, they went to an optical medium, but it was smaller than a DVD. It looked like a child's lunchbox. Again, they went with that kitty image, and that time it really hurt them. I mean, I'm not saying the GameCube, again, did not have great games. It had plenty of them. It had, Resident Evil 4 is a perfect example of a timed exclusive anyway. It was supposed to be an exclusive, then they brought it out for the PlayStation 2. Then we go to the Wii, and the Wii reinvigorated Nintendo, but in the end, what happened bit them in the ass. Two things they did, and this is where Nintendo's biggest weakness is. This is the point of this video. I remember I had a Wii for like a month total out of the current/previous console generation. I guess you could call it previous because pretty much everything's confirmed. There's new consoles coming out this year, but people who saw that system wanted it and weren't even gamers. And a lot of people I know personally, I don't need to look at statistics, bought the console because, I could sit there and bowl, put this big stick in my hand, and they would play it for like 2 weeks. And yeah, I saw a lot of Wiis in people's homes, but they collected dust. That was a big problem with the Wii, is that, it had a big install base, but the third-party developers could not sell software on it. On top of it, too, because they saw this whole casual market explode, this is pretty much right before the whole cell phone, tablet casual market opened up, they really ignored what was their bread and butter. They ignored the hardcore gamer. Now, were there hardcore games for the Wii U? Absolutely. But when you went into a store, what are the most of the games you saw? They were shovelware. They were super casual games. I remember, I think it was either 2008 or 2009, that debacle of an E3 press conference Nintendo had. And it really showed that, hey, our market is the casual market now. We're making a killing. We have Wii Fit. We have all these family super fun games. And we're ignoring what built us up. You remember the Super Nintendo was the king of third-party games. It was, you went to Nintendo to get everything. And when I saw that press conference, it was like they were spitting in our faces. And it worked for them for quite a while. They were making a shit ton of cash catering to that casual market. But then something happened. The people who barely gave a shit about gaming found an even easier way to game instead of sitting in front of their TV. They found out their smartphones could fill that little, sweet tooth they had for that quick pick-me-up and swipe the screen like an idiot game. They could go to games. They could go to Angry Birds. They could go to Subway Surfers and all that on their Android phone or their iOS device, whatever they have. So they lost that market. That market started to slowly go away. And they also still were catering more towards kids. I understand there was like Mad World and other games out there. I know people are going to throw those games in my face. But still, Nintendo had that image of being not only now for kids, which they always had, but now they were more towards casuals. And in the end, when the Wii, even though it was still their main system before they even announced the Wii U was all but dead, they realized they needed to change. And now I think it's almost too late. That's what I think the biggest problem is with the Wii U. And that guy last night that I mentioned, a friend of mine, made me realize it's Nintendo's image. Not only the fact that they're not marketing the Wii U right, but it's Nintendo's image also that's killing them. Throughout the years, they've always been for the children. They've always been, with the Wii especially, for the casuals. That was pretty much when it started with the casuals. And now they realize, because the casual market went on to something else, they're like, come on guys, come back, we could have hardcore games. Look, we have Injustice Gods Among Us at the same time as the other consoles. We need you to come back. We have Call of Duty, please, please, please. But Nintendo, since 2006 with the Wii, even before that with the Wii, till 2012, you all but ignored your hardcore market. And now it's biting you in the ass. And now you need to prove to those people that you all but abandoned in previous generations that you can offer that hardcore experience on top of your great exclusives. I'm not saying ignore your exclusives. I'm not saying not come out with more Mario games. Yes, I say Mario. I'm going to continue saying Mario. Not come out with more Zelda games, Metroid, etc., etc. But now you have to prove you could give the all-around experience again. And for well over a decade, you've proved otherwise. And now you have the image of being a kiddie game company and a kiddie console. You have a lot to prove to people, Nintendo. I hope you can. This is Rich of Review Tech USA, signing out.